Hello and welcome to this presentation on 3D printing in education. My name is Phil Cotton and I am the founder of Learn by Layers, which is what I'm here to talk to you about today. I've been a high school teacher for 16 years, currently head of department at a school in Bolton. I've been a past instructor for Autodesk on Fusion 360, and I've also worked with STEM learning for about 5 years from 2015 to about 2020, training teachers around the UK and further afield on how to get started with 3D printing in education. So here is Learn by Layers. This is a screenshot from the website. It is an online toolkit for teachers who need to get started with 3D printing in the classroom. A lot of teachers, when they start out, struggle with what they're actually going to teach. The concept of teaching 3D printing is quite hard because if you know nothing about it, to learn the technology and then integrate into the classroom, it does take a lot of hours and there is a lot of work that needs to go into it. So probably in 2017, I created an initial curriculum, created a website, uploaded the curriculum to the website, and then offered it as a product for teachers and schools that they could then download and teach in their classrooms. In that time, from 2017 to where we are now, 2024, it's been adopted by over 1,000 schools in 33 different countries. So there really is sort of a global appeal for curriculum content with 3D printing. So as well as a downloadable curriculum, there's also online courses with Fusion 360 and Onshape, and we'll take a look at them a bit later. There's lots of different options. If you are interested in getting started with 3D printing in the classroom and you need a starting point, visit the website and download the free lesson, or you could also send us an email. So let's look at the presentation aims. So we're going to look at what a 3D printer looks like and also have a quick discussion about why they are used in society. And then we want to understand how a 3D printer works and recognize the key components. And then finally, we will explore Learn by Layers and what it can offer to schools. So let's look at the different types of 3D printers that are currently out there on the market. So they're split up into 4 different types. We've got stereolithography, that's a resin-based technology, resin 3D printers. Also, we've got digital light processing. You very rarely see these in schools because it's quite a difficult process. There's a lot of cost regulations to deal with the resin. You need extraction, so you probably wouldn't see them. You may see them at A level. What you're going to see in most high schools that adopt 3D printing is this one called fused deposition modeling or fused filament fabrication. And that is essentially printing layers of plastic, which we'll go into a bit more. The final one, selective laser sintering, you're not really going to see that. You'll probably see that in colleges and universities, but it's very rare that you would see it in high school, mainly because of the cost. The cost of these machines, tens of thousands of pounds. Fused deposition modeling, FFF type machines, you can pick up for a couple of £100, but the other ones are more expensive. We're just going to look at what does a 3D printer look like. This is quite common, this type of machine. It's a FlashForge Adventurer. You've got this extruder here. You've got this tube that connects to filament on the back. You've got a platform. You've got a frame, and then you have an LCD screen. Most printers have them. They just look different depending upon the brand of machine. Now, how do they work? So we've got a quick time lapse here. So you get a digital model, create it on Fusion, create it Tinkercad, Onshape. You slice it into layers using the slicing software, and then you send it to the printer, and the printer will print that model in layers. And it's essentially, if you think about it, like a glue gun squirts glue out. This is the same type of technology, but you haven't got a trigger. It's actually on a mechanism that heats the plastic up and then squirts it out layer by layer. Yeah, we just watch that again. This print actually took probably about 5 hours. We've just speeded it up for this presentation. But essentially, this is the technology one layer at a time, and it will print until it's finished. You let the printer cool down, and then you can take it off the print bed. What type of materials does a 3D printer use? So there's two main types. You've got this common one called ABS, but the most popular is PLA. My advice is I wouldn't print with ABS in the classroom unless you've got an enclosure, a 3D printer that has got totally enclosed with extraction. ABS does give off bit of a smell. There's a lot of cost regulations on that, so I'd stick to PLA. Again, PLA, wherever you print, there are regulations with this. It should be enclosed. There should be ventilation as well. Also, for safety reasons, your printer should really be enclosed so kids can't get their fingers to moving parts. But yeah, PLA, it's the most popular. It stands for polylactic acid. It's considered a bioplastic and is also classed as renewable. So there's some interesting discussions you could have with students about the sustainability aspect of 3D printing when you're printing with PLA. Now, how does it work? Well, the filament comes in a spool, so it's like a big roll, a big wire, plastic wire that's wrapped into a roll, and it sits on the side of a printer or maybe on the top of a printer, and then it's fed into the extruder. And you've got a little mechanism here that pulls the filament through, and then it goes down into the tube and then into the nozzle. And in that nozzle, it gets heated up to about 200 degrees, maybe 220 degrees, and then it will squirt out a layer of plastic. Now, you've got all different types of nozzles, depending on the type of machine that you're going to use. But essentially, this is a graphic of how they work. The plastic is forced through into this hot chamber and then squirted out. It's not liquid, but it is really hot, and the extruder, the 3D printer, will just follow what you've designed. So when you take that design from CAD, you put it into a slicing package, you slice it into different layers, the printer reads those layers and will then print out your design. So a quick overview of that technology. You've got your filament that sits on the back of the printer or on the top. It's fed through a tube into a hot nozzle, and then the model is printed out layer by layer. So if we look at where is 3D printing used in society, there's all sorts of different industries that are starting to experiment with 3D printing, the advantages it can bring. And the medical industry is one of them. So you've got a 3D printed arm cast on the right, and then on the left, you've got a traditional arm cast. Now, this information is actually taken from Learn by Layers and the first lesson. And I always ask the kids in the class, what are the advantages of using a 3D printed arm cast over a traditional arm cast? And then I also ask them, has anyone in the class broken a bone before? And how did it feel to wear a traditional arm cast? And there's lots of interesting discussions that come about. So the first thing is, obviously it's lighter in weight. So this sort of exoskeleton 3D printed arm cast is printed off, and then it obviously you put your arm in it, and then it secures your arm in place so you can't move it. But it's a lot lighter in weight than a traditional arm cast, and also it's quite easy if you've got an itch. So there's no more getting needles and putting them down the cast or using a ruler to try and sort the itch out. You can just directly get to the area and give it an itch. You can also have a shower with this as well. You could get it wet, and it's not an issue, unlike a traditional arm cast. And there's also the fact that after you've broken a bone, when you take these casts off, the skin, because it hasn't really been able to breathe very well, your arm can be in quite a state. But with this 3D printed design, you get air to your skin, so your skin is in a lot better condition. By the time the healing process is done, there's a lot of downsides to it though. You could have irritation from the plastic on your skin. Also, your arm isn't fully protected because there are gaps in the design, so that could pose an issue. And then I always say to the kids, well, what if you're out in the sun? You're going to get some crazy tan lines as well, which is quite an interesting one to look at. But it is being used in certain hospitals. They are experimenting with this type of thing. Another example of where 3D printing is being used, this is more consumer level. So there's like a community of makers that make these little carriages for disabled dogs and dogs that have got injuries, or they may have been born without limbs. Obviously, before this, they would have stood no chance because the cost to make these would be quite a lot. But with a 3D printer, you can do this at home. Use skateboard wheels, design the little carriage, and this is a thing that people do. So it's quite a positive way to use 3D printing. If you go on Facebook and just type in Turbo Roo, the two-legged Chihuahua, I think he's got about 30,000 followers, something like that. Quite interesting. And the next area where it's used is in the film industry. So Iron Man. So what we'll do, we'll just play this quick video about where 3D printing is used.
So I'm just gonna go down here. We're looking for 912.
Hey Alex, how are you? Pleasure to meet you. I have another bionics expert on hand, so I thought I'd drop by.
Thank you.
Yes, a pleasure. Nice bow tie, by the way.
Thanks.
How were your travels?
It's very good.
Well, I thought I'd bring one of my gauntlets and match it up with yours and see if everything's copacetic. You want to have a look?
Sure.
Ready?
Yep.
Great.
Each one looks the same.
Actually, I think yours might be better than mine. What do you say we both try them on, do a progress report?
Okay.
You know who that is?
Iron Man.
What's his name?
Robert.
Great. God, dude, it's even cooler than I thought. I'm having a technical glitch. As you can see, my light isn't working. Half the time, I design one of these, it winds up breaking on me. But what I do is I keep working on it, kind of like you're working on it with Albert.
He keeps working and working until he gets it right.
Yeah, I think yours is still a little bit more right than mine because at least,
The lights work.
your light works, yeah. Ah, look at that, Dan. It's a marriage of robotic technologies. Bang, nailed it. Love it. Hey, good job, Albert.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Albert has made it so affordable. I'm probably going to start farming out a lot of my tech work to Albert, too. I feel like he could cut the price point down on one of my suits, which right now is, I guess, about, $1.5 billion.
So yeah, I think that's a really positive example of where 3D printing can help people. Another example, if you've seen James Bond, Skyfall, they blow up a classic Aston Martin in the movie, but it wasn't actually a real life Aston Martin because they're so valuable. So what they did was 3D printed off, I think it's about a third of the size, and then they used that to blow up in the movie. Because obviously, you just could not get a full size Aston Martin from the 60s or 70s and think we're going to blow that up because there's so few remaining. So yeah, it is used a lot in Hollywood and in the movie industry. Back to the medical industry as well. This is a good discussion point. 3D printing off a scan of an unborn baby. A lot of people think, well, that's fundamentally wrong. They don't see why you should do that. But if you're blind, if you can't see the scan, it just offers a different way to experience that ultrasound. So yeah, interesting one, really good for a discussion on is that a right thing to do or not. So yeah, 3D printed limbs. There is organizations, one called Enabling the Future. You may have seen this robotic arm. You can download it from Thingiverse. Now and again, you see sort of after school clubs that are printing them out. Real positive thing to do, and they're great as a learning resource. But if you do decide to print these off, you've got to be very careful about actually giving them to someone to use in real life, because they do break. They are not a substitute for a proper human hand, obviously. And the last thing you want to do is print one of these off, give it to a disabled kid, and then they're wearing it and they have an accident, they drop a hot drink or they fall off the bike, and it's down to the 3D printed hand. You've got to be really careful with that. But they are a great teaching resource to use in the classroom. Just moving to the end of this now, you can 3D print in concrete. So Manchester Metropolitan University have got concrete 3D printers, and they claim that they can 3D print a house in a day. This isn't what Manchester Uni have got. This is from a news article, but they do have concrete 3D printers that can print on a smaller scale. So a good discussion topic of how might this benefit people. So you're looking at disaster areas, you could quickly 3D print within a day. Shelters, could this bring down the cost of housing? I think in Denmark there are 3D printed houses, actually, for the public to buy and move in. There's a whole 3D printed community there. Yeah, quite interesting to see if this would actually take off. A lot of car companies are using it as well. So Mini did this a couple of years ago. When you buy a new Mini, you could get the interior customized with your name, with a certain pattern. They would 3D print the parts, send them a few weeks later, and get them fitted into your car. For this couldn't be done if it was injection molded, because it'd be too expensive. But 3D printing allows for more bespoke products to be made, and obviously more customization. And on that, this is the most popular 3D printed item in the world, and it's a pair of trainers from Adidas. They formed a collaboration with a company called Carbon 3D, and these 3D printed soles, there's a few million of them being printed off, and people are wearing them. It's an interesting one. Would you wear 3D printed shoes? There's a lot of discussion points with this. It is a real interesting one. One of the discussion points is you could manufacture more locally as opposed to globally. I do know that the 3D printed soles were made in Germany and then shipped to the UK for final assembly. When previously you may have a global supply chain, but 3D printing allows for things to be made on a more local basis. So again, there's a big discussion to be had with classes there about the potential impact of movement of jobs, globalization, sustainability, emissions, carbon footprint. And I'd highly recommend that when you talk about 3D printing, you can have those discussions with your classes. So the final slide is just a snapshot of where 3D printing is used, and the sort of economies, the areas of the world that you see it being used extensively. And obviously that's Europe, North America, countries where there's modernized economies, large cities. There's only certain parts of Africa, South America, parts of Asia where it just doesn't exist. Realistically, wherever you've got a developed country, developed education system, you're going to get 3D printers. It's quite challenging for some countries, some parts of the world, to integrate 3D printing if they haven't got the infrastructure in place in the first place. Yeah, it's very much emerging and rapidly expanding fast. Finishing off this first section, I would say the key takeaways of 3D printing is rapidly expanding, and it's in all kinds of industries. It's modern technology. It's fascinating for students. All schools should be teaching it. It fits into the national curriculum at Key Stage 3 and also at GCSE specifications at Key Stage 4. And I think probably the most important bit is it's easily accessible. There's loads of resources out there. There's loads of help out there, and you're not going to regret it once you get into it. it's amazing. You will not regret it. So, what we want to do is have a look at the curriculum in more content and what is Learn by Layers. So, this is a website, Learn by Layers. It's been there for since 2017. There's a blog down there, and there's all sorts of different tabs at the top that go through what it's about. So we've got a core 3D printing curriculum that is made up of 21 lessons. All those lessons are pre-planned, ready to teach. They're also editable as well. So if we just go to a preview, the lessons are made up of 3 sections. So you've got a beginner's lessons, intermediate lessons, and then you've got advanced lessons. So if you're starting out maybe with Key Stage 3, Year 7, Year 8, you may want to start them on the beginner's lessons with Tinkercad. And then when they get to Year 9, you would progress on to the intermediate level. And then maybe Year 10, you would go to the advanced levels. The intermediate and advanced levels are based around Fusion 360 or Onshape. There's 2 different versions of the curriculum. So both versions have the beginner's Tinkercad lessons, and then you could either go the Fusion 360 route or the Onshape route, depending which CAD package is best for your school. So yeah, as mentioned, it's taught in over 33 countries. It's really big in America. In the USA, it's probably about 80% of the market. There's a massive demand for new technologies and 3D printing. So yeah, let's go through some of the content. So you get key objectives. So each lesson comes with a lesson plan, comes with key objectives. You get teaching slides. You get everything ready to go. It is a toolkit ready to use. So lesson 1 looks familiar. Obviously, a bit of that was in the presentation. There's also modeling tutorials. So this goes through how to model a basic finger grip on Tinkercad. You get homework sheets, lesson tasks, and you also get answer sheets as well. So essentially, you get all the Word documents, all the PowerPoint documents. You download them, and you can teach it as it is in its native sort of format. Or if you wanted to edit a few questions or change a few things, you've got the editing rights to be able to do that after you purchase the curriculum. So lesson 1, lesson 2 goes on to how do 3D printers move, what is slicing, and you've got lesson tasks and homeworks. Lesson 3, 4, and 5 goes on to all modeling tutorials. You have design challenges as well to really build those design skills. Lesson 6 goes on to how to slice models and some basics about bioplastics. And then in lesson 7, they have an assessment, which is all ready to go, ready to deliver with answers as well. If you could set this as cover work as well. If you were off, you could continue with the scheme of work because everything is pre-planned. So the intermediate lessons, again, they follow the same format. Lesson 8 talks about 3D printing globally, where it's at. Talks about the RoboHand, injection molded versus 3D printed products. Lesson 9 goes into what type of different 3D printers are out there and the key differences between them all. And then lesson 10 goes into Fusion 360, starts out parametric modeling. Lesson 11 and 12 is a series of design challenges. We look at flexible filaments, how to print with flexible filaments, and then there's some more challenging designs that they have to complete. And then lesson 13 and 14 goes into slicing in depth. So again, with that, you have a tutorial at the end, and then moving on to the advanced, it follows the same format. Talk about globalization, supply chains, carbon footprint. Again, some of these slides we went through earlier. We then go through the 6 R's and how they relate to 3D printing, and then it's on to modeling. So these modeling tutorials in the advanced pack, they really are quite advanced. You really need a good sound knowledge of Fusion 360 before you get onto this. One of the challenges being to design a smartphone or iPhone case. And then you've got lampshades, pencil holders, all sorts of stuff in there. Even look at Johnny Ive and Apple as well. And then there is the end of module assessment as well. Yeah, with Learn by Layers, all of that sort of stuff, if you go to purchase and then buy the files, all of the different options are there listed. You've got your beginner's lesson pack, and then we do a coding bundle as well. So if you're into Scratch coding, you can actually you can create 3D models from Scratch coding, and there's a curriculum for that as well. But yeah, we have the Fusion 360 route, and then we have the Onshape route as well. With each one, there's an accompanying online course. So if you're a bit unsure about Fusion, and you need to learn more as a teacher before you want to teach it, you can take the online course, which will get you upskilled and give you all the knowledge needed to be able to teach the curriculum. And again, the same for Onshape as well. And then, say if you've got a FlashForge curriculum, we've got different options that are just branded to FlashForge, because FlashForge uses a different type of slicing software. And then the final thing, this is a bit different. If you're into Python coding, we released a Python coding lesson pack last year as well. But for design technology teachers, that's not really what you do. But if there's any computer science teachers in the room and you needed some resources, there's the option there as well. So we also have online courses. We've got a 3D printing boot camp and learn Onshape, learn Fusion 360, learn coding and 3D printing. There's a blog. So the blog talks about all sorts of things, or just what's going on in 3D printing at the moment. So the latest blog is what's best for your school. Is it Fusion 360 or Onshape? So if you're thinking of starting out, you're unsure, take a look there. We were looking at a couple of months ago how to create 3D printing time lapses. That's quite an interesting one. We'll just click on that and play the video. So yeah, the blogs are full of all sorts of interesting things. Yeah, that was a bit of a summer project, learning how to create 3D printed time lapses. So yeah, if pay a visit to the website if you're interested to learn more about Learn by Layers. Have an explore through the blog. We've got a free lesson as well. If you download the free lesson, we'll also send you a load more information about the curriculum. If you just want to learn more about it in your own time as well, you can sign up for the free webinar. If you just click there, it just essentially goes through what I've just gone through there. So yeah, if you want to ask any questions, then you can just send us an email to info@learnbylayers.com. I'm more than happy to offer advice. Send over free lesson if you want it. But if you just want some advice about 3D printing and you're a bit unsure where to start, just send us an email and I'll get back to you with that. So yeah, I hope you have found this video informing, and yeah, I wish you all the best on your journey with design and technology, and hopefully 3D printing as well. Okay, thanks very much. Take care.